Hello, everybody, and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43, and tonight we are taking our very first look at the new campaign ship, or at least one third of the campaign ships, because you can actually get 3 different campaign ships with this free campaign that is ongoing. So make sure you guys grind out that campaign, and then you get to choose between either the Rhode Island or the German Russian battle cruiser, the Sevastopol, Ukraine. That's right. I had to think of what it was called. Sevastopol, yeah. So anyway, we're going to go over the Rhode Island first, obviously, because American Battleship and Super Florida. Why not? So we are going to talk about a couple of things first, which is do not build this thing specifically for secondary. You will hate your life. Just throwing that out there, okay? Just throwing that out there right now so we all on the same page. If you have Takanashi Hoshino, she your girl, all right? If not, then just use your William Sims to build into your accuracy. You want to buff these main guns as much as possible because they are kind of busted. Now, I understand they're only 14-inch guns. They're not even that accurate, okay? But you got 12 of them, and they reload stupidly fast with this build, and we'll get into that in a second. But first things first, we're running Takanashi Hoshino. We got Palo de Revel and Azure Lane, Colorado as our inspirations. I understand that not everybody is going to have these commanders. This is just the optimal build, in my opinion, for this ship, and you're going to see why in a minute. But her base trait is obviously to make the main battery reload time better. It also makes your turrets stronger, and it reduces your rudder shift, which is going to come in handy. We have Flammable Cannoneer, which gives us main battery range as well as extra shell grouping, but you do have a chance to catch on fire. But that's not even a big deal because you get multiple heals with this build because you have fully packed. And you also have Dance with Death, which reduces your torpedo launcher, main battery, and secondary battery reload time per 1% HP lost. Yes. Also, it helps speed up your turret traverse per 1 HP lost. Yes. Then, of course, we have Megalomania, which, of course, we do. Why wouldn't we want to run this? You could run on second thought if you just don't know what you're doing. But yes, you're gonna reduce your maximum hit points by 5%. But what you get out of that is a 10% buff to your reload, and your battleship detectability time after firing the main guns is dropped by 25%. Instead of, I think it's usually 10 seconds, instead of that, it's going to be about 8.5. Okay? Doesn't seem like a huge buff, but trust, it is. Okay? It just is. Right? So it would be, what? Yes, 25%, 2.5. Sorry, it'd be 7.5 seconds. Again, my math sucks, okay? I get that, but relax. But yeah, Megalomania is just better. I'm sorry. This could be handy if you switch ammo types all the time, but trust me, when you realize how strong, for a 14-inch gun, how strong this AP actually is, you're gonna enjoy it. Okay, Foreclosure Task Force President. You could go with Master Mechanic here, get extra heals. Personally, I think this is the better option. Why? Because it reduces the amount of damage from shells, torpedoes, and bombs to your battleship per 1 HP lost once again. So for every bit of damage that you take, you're making your ship so much better. Which you're going to take damage in this thing. We'll go over that in a minute too. But it also reduces your consumable cooldown time per 1 HP lost, which means that you get your heals back faster and secondary boosters back faster. You see where I'm going with this? And of course, we're running fully packed because it gives us extra consumables, because of course we do, right? And it also reduces the cooldown time for all consumables. And then once you are within a certain amount of distance from an enemy or from a friendly ship, it reduces that cooldown for consumable by another 20%. Pretty crazy. Anyway, let's go over the rest of the equipment. We are running secondary battery mod 2 in the first slot because it gives us more secondary battery firing range as well as the secondary battery dispersion. Also, American ships get our accuracy equipment last. so we don't actually have to worry about accuracy in this first slot. And the turret traverse is going to be fine with this build, so you don't even have to do that. So secondaries, or if you don't want to if you don't care about secondaries, go into AA guns for the rare occasion that you run into planes, because I say rare occasion, it's getting more and more prevalent. But I'm just saying, this thing has a ridiculous amount of HE or AA, sorry, as you would expect out of a American battleship. So you can absolutely buff that and get a stupid amount of AA range and good things. But secondaries, I think, are the better choice here, because you will have situations where these secondaries are absolutely going to come in handy. We're going to showcase that. We're also running steering gears mod 2, because again, you want to do the Dreadnought Shuffle in this thing because it has weak bow armor. Okay, you will be overmatched by just about everything. So you want to bait them into shooting your belt. You want to be able to then pull full broadside and unleash all 12 guns and get back before they can slap you around. So steering gears, highly recommended here. If you want to go propulsion mod, go for it, but steering gears, I think, is the better choice. Obviously, we're running concealment system module here. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I don't think any battleships hardly ever anymore run the RGA mod. It's just not worth. And then, of course, we have the epic version of the Artillery Plotting Room mod 2 in the final slot, which gives us minus 10% main battery dispersion and an extra 2% for every 30,000 damage beyond. So up to an extra 10% if you can proc this all 5 times. Okay, if you do 150,000 damage, you're going to proc this all 5 times. You'll have the maximum accuracy buff, which is a minus 20% to your main battery, which turns these guns from being kind of a disappointment initially into something that everybody should be worried about. With the reload rate that these guns have, and I know they're only 14 inches, but trust me, when you see what I'm talking about, you're going to take notice. But we've got 4 heals with this build. We also have the fancy Enhanced Secondary Targeting 2 consumable, which makes our secondary battery reload time better, our secondary battery shell grouping better, and our secondary battery dispersion better. Consumable duration is 30 seconds and reloads in 135.8 seconds, or at least it normally would. If it wasn't for every time we get hit, that gets faster. If we're close to a friendly, that gets faster. And you get 4 charges of that. So it can get out of hand. And also, I chose radar here. Why? Because radar is probably the best option out of all of these, at least in my opinion. In terms of being competitive, there are so many destroyers, so many smoke cruisers, radar is going to come in huge. And this is a good radar, 9.5 kilometers and 35 seconds. Okay? When you see how fast these guns are reloading, you'll see why 35 seconds is a lifetime for anything to be radared. Okay? We're running the Hector flag because if you squint just right, kind of looks like a Spartan helmet. And then, of course, the frozen Rhode Island skin, because why not? It's a fancy skin. Wanted to show it off. Okay? If they ever come out with like a Stars and Stripes for this thing, I'll probably run that. Now, I will say this. The range on the main battery guns, despite everything that we've done, isn't the greatest. We don't have reaching out XXL. So you may want to run an enhanced booster here. So this one. It gives you extra main battery range. 3% isn't a lot, but it does noticeably get you closer to that 19 kilometer range that comes in real clutch. And when you see, I'm telling you, these guns are not, this ship is not what I expected. Now, again, this is a small sample size, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But if this thing, building into the guns the way I have, performs the way it did in this second match that I had, I'm telling you, it's fantastic. Even if it is Super Florida. But hit points is reduced 83,120 from the 87,500. So you lose about 4,000 hit points, 4,400 hit points. But you do have a 26% torp reduction, which is nice. It's not amazing, but it's better than Iowa, so we'll take it, right? Main battery guns, you got 356 millimeter Mark 11 turrets. You get 3 of those, and they are quad turrets, okay? And the main battery firing range with this build currently without a booster is 18.5 kilometers, which is plenty, but sometimes you need to reach out beyond 19 kilometers, and that's why I say you may want to run the Epic Battle Booster there to get you that extra little bit of range. I believe it adds about a kilometer, so you'd be around 19.4, 19.5 kilometers if you put the booster on. Reload time with this build, 17.2 seconds for Battleship guns. To put that into perspective, the Alaska reloads in roughly, I think, 15, 16 seconds. And it has 305 millimeter guns, 12-inch guns. We have 2 inches more gun. We have 12 of them. And we reload in only 1.2 seconds slower. Main battery turret traverse time isn't the best, but gets better throughout the match as we take damage and starts at 36 seconds, so it's not bad. Shell grouping with this build is 1.84. Doesn't seem great, but the artillery plotting room helps with that tremendously. The more damage you get, the more accurate it gets. It will get better throughout the match. Okay, so if you ever see one of these things late in the game, if it survives that long, just know that you don't want to give this thing a broadside, even if it only has 14-inch guns. But we'll show it off here in a minute. HE shell maximum damage 5,000 with a 31% chance to set fires. They do pin 59 millimeters, so it is an effective ammo type. Personally, I tried shooting HE. I couldn't even set a fire with it. I fired nothing but HE in the first match that I did for the first, I think it was 4 or 5 salvos. I didn't get a single fire with a 31% chance to set fires. Now, granted, that was a full secondary build version of it. I did test it, and I immediately regretted my decisions for 2 reasons. One, secondaries in this game suck, okay? There are a few ships that are, outliers there, and this ship seems like it would be, but they're only 5-inch guns. You got to remember, these are 8-inch, or not 8-inch, American 5-inch, 38 caliber guns, right? They're a dual-purpose AA gun that also can shoot at ships, and they're not that effective at defeating the armor, but they can set fires, right? So keep that in mind. We'll talk about the secondaries here in a minute. But just know that personally, from what I've seen so far out of this thing, it's not an HE slinger. Thankfully. The AP shell damage is terrible, as you'd expect. 9,500 is awful. But when you think about the amount of shells that you're able to fire, that becomes less of a problem. 12 guns every 17 seconds. And it gets better throughout the match. Just saying. It gets crazy. Muzzle velocity, we don't care about any of that. It is a little bit higher for the AP shells, or it's lower than the HE shells, as it always is, because the AP shell's heavier. But it's higher than like the Incomparable, for instance. The Incomparable just came in with the biggest guns in the game and has one of the slowest shell velocities. It's like 730, 750 meters per second, where these are much more normal. Armor penetration at point blank range, 774 millimeters. These may only be 14-inch guns, but they are fully capable of just absolutely ruining your day if you give it a broadside, especially up close. At range, this does drop off a little bit. We do lose a little bit of penetration at range, but honestly, it doesn't matter. It's such a small change, only 16 millimeters difference. You just got to learn to place these shots. Minimum ricochet angles and guaranteed ricochet angles are absurd on this thing. I say absurd. They're improved. They're not absurd. It is just the improved ricochet angles, which means you're less likely to bounce at better angles, right? It's only 5 degrees better in both, but 5 degrees does make a big difference. Okay, so keep that in mind. Secondaries, we already talked about these. These are the 127 millimeter Mark 38 Mod Zeros. You get 20 of them, of course you do, because every battleship for the Americans have had 20 of these things for as long as I can remember. But yeah, so they reach out to 9 kilometers with this build. They have a base range of 7.5 kilometers, which anytime you see that, you should start to get real happy if you like secondaries. And these reload in the same amount of time the Ohios do, I believe, at 3.5 seconds. So they're fantastic for that. But they suffer from the same thing that all secondaries in this game suffer from. The gunners are the dumbest motherfuckers you've ever seen in your life. They cannot understand that a target moves. They shoot at the target and not ahead of the target. They don't lead targets at all. And that's the problem with secondaries. And that's why you don't want to build directly into secondaries on this ship. Because unlike the Schlieffen and stuff, you just don't have enough of them, and they don't pin enough things to really make it worth it. Can they help you with fires? Absolutely. Can they knock out torpedo tubes and stuff like that? Absolutely. But you don't need to go full secondary build to get a huge amount of help from these for those purposes, right? But they shoot HE with an 1800 maximum damage, and they have a 5% chance to set fires. They only pen 21 mils. So there's quite a few ships that just you can't do much of anything to. Maybe they hit a superstructure or something like that, but most of the time these are not going to be doing damage. Even against destroyers, they will struggle to do damage at times. So just keep that in mind. Can they? Absolutely. Are they the best? Not necessarily. AA defense is off the charts. Again, it maxes at 100. Nobody knows what goes beyond 100. I wish they would give us more than a 100 at this point. Like, is it 101%? Is it 120%? I would like to know what the aggregate above 100 is. So developers, if you're watching, give us something that tells us what is beyond 100, because we know that the American ships and potentially the French ships, French battleships, can exceed 100% because they start at 100%. And so when you buff them, they get better, right? In theory. But 20 millimeter Oerlikon Mark IVs, you get 40 of those doing 186 damage per second, starting with a 2 kilometer base range. And again, if you take the AA module, you bump that up to like 3.5, like it gets pretty nasty, right? And then you have the 76.2 millimeter Mark 33s, you get 32 of those as well, doing 517 damage out to 5 kilometers. That's nuts. 5 kilometer, and again, if you buff that, if you went with the AA module, you're getting 6 to 7 somewhere. I think it's 6 kilometers of range on something like this. So 6 kilometers, you're doing 500 damage per second. That's crazy. AA defense, the third version is the dual purpose secondaries we talked about. 127 millimeter Mark 38 mod zeros. You get 20 of those doing 123 damage per second, reaching out to 5 kilometers again. So at 5 kilometers, I have over 630. No, you have exactly 630. No, you have 640. I'm sorry. I don't try to be this dumb. It just happens. 640 damage per second of AA at 5 kilometers. So this thing has AA. Nasty amounts. Maximum speed is 33 knots. Of course it is. It's the fastest battleships ever built, the Americans. Unless, of course, this game exists and tries to make American ships slower. But yeah, we built the fastest ships for a reason, right? Everything can keep up with our carriers. That was the purpose. 890 meter turning circle. Again, good for Legendary tier. At Legendary tier, this is very good for a battleship. But look at the rudder shift, y'all. That is absurd. That is cruiser level. Maybe super cruiser. Super cruiser level of rudder shift. Pretty ridiculous, right? Oops, I hit the wrong button. No, I've ruined the... Sorry. Anyway, concealment. Detectability by sea, this is pretty standard. 13.9, 11.6 by air. Guaranteed is always 2. 14.1 kilometer smoke firing penalty. That seems awful high. A 14.1 kilometer smoke firing penalty on a 14-inch gun seems a little bit absurd, in my opinion. When you've got 15-inch guns that are sub 12 kilometer smoke firing penalty. Not going to mention any names. Colombo. Anyway, let's get into the stats. Again, small sample size. We won both games, but the first game had nothing to do with me. I mean, I did technically kill a destroyer, and I did mortally wound an Ohio. Me and an Ohio got in a stalemate where we just sat in front of each other seeing who had the better secondaries. And I won. The Ohio ran away from me. It was hilarious. But not before I took over half of his hit points. Actually, it was closer to 2/3 of his hit points by the time he decided he had enough. But anyway, main gun accuracy, 51%. This is why I say this thing is absurd. Like 51% main gun accuracy on a battleship. And again, these are not accurate guns. So that number should tell you everything about what you're about to see. Alright, so let's get into the armor, because this is the problem with this ship. Okay? You need to know what you're doing with this ship. If you've ever played to Florida, you know what it's like to not have any armor. This ship isn't quite that bad when it comes to having no armor, but it is overmatchable by pretty much every gun that's going to find you at the tier. 27 mil means 16-inch guns and above. Okay? So Burgonia doesn't overmatch you. That's pretty much it. everybody else is going to overmatch you pretty much. Anyway, so you don't want to sit there bow into people and let them shoot straight through your bow, which is why that fantastic rudder shift comes in handy and allows you to just make people look stupid with the dreadnought shuffle. Again, I bring it up all the time. Dreadnought shuffle will save your life. Okay? Okay, so let's get into the rest of it. So we have this lovely 38 millimeter side plating, right? 32 at the bottom. Okay, it might be 32 actually. I think the upper belt might be 38. But either way, 32 gets overmatched by the Ama, the Musashi, the Incomparable. Outside of that, are now the Aki as well. Man, there's a lot of stuff starting to overmatch 32. Super ship soon? Question mark. But when is Kremlin getting here? That's the real question. Anyway, if we get rid of that, you'll see that this thing does have a citadel. It's just buried. Let me show you. It's buried. It's not quite buried, but it's pretty close to being buried. Okay, so you can get away with a little bit more in this than you can with the regular Florida. But you better learn to angle, is all I'm saying. You can take some hits with this thing, but just learn to use that belt armor because it will save your bacon, as we see. Like that, look at that. 38 millimeter upper belt, 32 millimeter belt at the waterline. So as long as you angle against everything that's not overmatching 32 mil, like you just ricochet pretty much everybody. And we get to showcase some of that also. All right, so overview. Sure shot. Shells with a good ballistic trajectory. That's another thing. This thing does have pretty flat shell arcs, which means these shells not only get to the targets a little bit quicker, but they come in at an angle that is likely to do very nasty things to your broadside. So be careful if you're giving a broadside to one of these things, because if it loads AP, you could have a real bad day, even at range. It's surprising how good these 14-inch guns are. I had no good things to say about it after the first match, try and go full secondaries. And then I tried the main gun build, and I'm like, oh, never mind. I get it. Above average secondary battery range, we know that. And then, of course, we have the fast above average maximum movement speed. It can also be equipped with an engine boost, so there's that, if you want that. Rhode Island, a battleship based on a 1938 fast battleship design variant featuring an alternative armament configuration. That's going to be the Florida, which Florida in-game is just modeled after the North Carolina, or was the original idea for the North Carolina with 14-inch guns. And then North Carolina obviously got 16-inch guns instead. But I digress. Anyway, the ship's main battery consists of 12 14-inch 356 caliber, or 356 millimeter. Good lord. Imagine how fat of a gun that would be. Guns housed in or how long of a gun barrel that would be, is what I meant. Housed in quadruple gun turrets, initially planned for use on North Carolina class battleships. See? In 1937. She was designed in 1938, never built. But anyway, I mean, she a good-looking ship. She's actually pretty fun so far. Again, small sample size. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, but I'm not disliking it after I tried the reload build. So with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Haven, and we are in the new American battleship, Rhode Island. And I just got to say right out the gate, I apologize for the long intro to this video. I'm going to make sure that I put like a tag or something in there to make sure that people can skip past that if they want. But yeah, I didn't realize I was kind of rambling there a little bit. I have a tendency to do that, and I already know there are going to be comments. Man, I'm 22 minutes into this video and he hasn't gotten to the gameplay yet. I'm sorry. But I appreciate you hanging out. I hope you guys are enjoying, and we're going to show you guys just how absurd this thing actually can be. Obviously, this game was chock full of just pure bliss for a battleship captain, specifically a battleship captain that can get up and move like this. So yeah, let's showcase this ship against some pretty astounding ships, right? When you guys, I'm not kidding. When you guys see how this game ends up going, like, It don't take long. Let's just put it that way. Things go from 0 to 100 real fast. Before I know it, the entire enemy... And I also want to remind everybody, there are 4 destroyers in this match. We happen to have 3 of them in a division on our side who spawn right next to each other, thankfully, because God help you if they could ever go to the bathroom, you know, solo. But, yeah, they're going to be not the... I don't know. I can't really comment on what they do or don't do here because, honestly, the game goes so fast from my perspective that I couldn't tell you what happened to everybody else. So, immediately I see this main here, and then I got to thinking, I'm like, I don't have much range. I kind of got to keep an eye. He's going to try to go behind the island, and he's going full broadside. We're going to take the shot. And initially I thought, oh, they're not going to make it in time. But look at that accuracy, folks. Does that look like 1.87 accuracy? Not really. And then it does this. Bonk. 25,000 damage on the opening salvo at maximum range on a main. Yeah. You probably thought it was a fluke, you know. It's pretty unrealistic to get that kind of RNG every single time, right? I mean, it's pretty unrealistic. So I would expect the next shot to be a little bit worse. But we're already 1 shot in and almost getting ready to have our buff to our dispersion. So we take a shot at this broadside Yamato and didn't try to really place the shot. I just figured, just shoot at the broadside of Yamato. And then this happened. What? Again, almost maximum range, citadeling a Yamato. So then I'm like, okay, we'll aim at the actual like belt line this time and see if I can stack more than 1 citadel, or if it was a fluke. And that's the kind of dispersion you can probably expect to get. And we managed to land 5 out of 12 shells. Not bad. Not quite 50%, but not bad. Then I aim a little bit higher, expecting, okay, he's going to turn away here, so I want to get some hits. If he does turn away, we're probably not going to get much of anything, but you never know, right? And they get there faster than people realize, and I'm just stacking the damage. Like, I'm already 55k, and Yamato's running away for his life, and that's when we notice that there's a Hindenburg about to come charging through here, and I'm like, okay, well, might as well wait. There's no reason not to, right? And so I just wait. Hindenburg's coming. He knows I'm here. Like, he can see me on sonar. He's got me sonared right now, but he's so tunnel visioned. And then he gets smacked by the battleship that's behind me. But he's so tunnel visioned on what he wants to do, whether he's going after the destroyers or what. But he's tunnel visioned so bad. But he does try to turn away. He does recognize that he's about to make a really bad error. But unfortunately for him, it's too little too late. I've got big guns. Blam! There goes 1/3 of his health and bringing him down close to a half. And then, of course, my secondaries start doing its thing. And I do hit the button a little bit soon here. But if they can shoot over the top of the island, they're going to do some work on it. Unlike destroyers, we can actually hit cruisers and battleships. And that's when we see the incomparable. Biggest guns in the game. Nasty little boat. But this incomparable and I are about to have an exchange. So we're going to aim high here, expecting to go through the upper side plating. We knock out a gun immediately. That's one of the downsides of the Incomparable. I don't remember if I mentioned that or not. Also, I'm radaring the 2 destroyers and the cruiser right now. I don't know if anybody's able to shoot at any of them, but I figured I'd radar them just in case. But the Incomparable is begging for it at this point. But unfortunately, we get some bad RNG. We don't get as much damage as we'd like, and we definitely don't get the Citadel that I was hoping for. But the main is trying to get us. You can see we're trying to stay angled as best we can. Anything that goes through the bow is going to hurt, but if it doesn't go through the bow, we're good. And then he starts to swing around, and I thought he would be pinnable from here, but I was wrong. And then we're able to dodge his initial torpedoes because he just screwed the booch on the torps, let's be real. And so I know he already launched his torps. I'm good to just stay here, and then we go for the drive-by. This is dangerous if he gets a good shot in, but I know he has really slow rotating turrets because British, and so we just do the drive-by and murder him. He's down 118,000 damage, and we are open for business. Hindenburg is running for his life. I believe he's still burning from us. We've got the main over here. Broadside is crap, begging for it. I'm thinking, okay, we got some more damage here. Can't ask for much better RNG than that, right? Except he starts to angle towards me a little bit, which we know the Domain and the Montana have one of the nastiest armor belts in the game. Our secondaries, by the way, are actually targeting the destroyer, if you didn't notice, and we get a kill with the second. See what I'm saying? You don't have to build into the secondaries to get them to work. Just Remember that. As we citadel the Hindenburg on his way by the main, I could have shot the main there, but there's no need to. I feel like the Hindenburg's torpedoes are more of a threat to me than the main's guns. Does that make me a bad person? I don't think so. It's just prioritizing targets, and Hindenburg is about to go down. That's going to finish him off. And now there's a Yamato staring at me, the guy that we citadeled at the beginning of the match, taking his shot at us, and gets pretty good RNG right off the bat. Gets a nasty salvo. We're up to 136,000 damage, by the way. And we dodge all of the Hindenburg's torpedoes, because all we did was turn. Yamato's sitting flat broadside. We get a pretty good roll here, and we're almost ready to max out our RNG. And that's the shot that shatters and bounces. I'm questioning my logic on that one. I ain't gonna lie. Destroyer starts shooting me here. I just put out the fires, and we send the main straight to the Shadow Realm, as you'd expect, picking up our high caliber and our 4th kill. And the Yamato is sitting flat broadside directly in front of us. I do have a radar coming back soon, but it won't matter because that destroyer is not going to sit in the smoke screen for much longer. We take a shot at the Yama's broadside, and we citadel and pick up the Kraken, and we help get the assisted kill on the destroyer as well on our way by. And that just leaves a Groza Kurfürst, who's very healthy over there. I've put up 176,000 damage and 5 kills with an assist ribbon, with a secondary kill and a high caliber, and we have not really stopped moving other than the initial shots on the Yama. Like, we stopped because we had multiple shots. We were hidden behind the island, and so we just stopped and farmed him. And then when we did finally decide to go forward, we just murdered everybody in our path. They had no shot. I mean, what can you do? I'll tell you what you can do. You wait for me to go broadside and then send me to the Shadow Realm. Or, if you overmatch, you just shoot through the bow for 30k plus. Like, it's not that difficult. But Kurfürst takes a massive hit here. And I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit mad at this because I was seeing a 200k game easy. Right? Like, freaking full health Kurfürst. I'm not scared of a Kurfürst. Right? I don't care what build he's got. But we take a shot over the island. We hit, of course we do. We managed to hit 8 out of the freaking 12 shells, but unfortunately he is going to take torps and go down here. I was really hoping that he wouldn't, because I really, really wanted to get more damage. But we'll just have to settle for the measly 186,000 damage with a secondary kill, a high caliber, and a Kraken Unleashed, 2,600 base XP, and yeah, I think this pretty much shows what you can expect out of this thing. It's pretty nasty. Again, you gotta hope that people are dumb enough to give you broadsides, and you gotta hope that they're not smart enough to know where your weakness is. But other than that, I like it. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.